This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. I've spent the last year not worrying about if something is in my teeth, so forgive me if I'm a little slow to go mask off if you see me in the street. Here's what we got for y'all. Tonight we've got an on-the-ground look at a brutal crackdown on protesters that's drawing an international spotlight. Then, what do the words critical race theory really mean? It's being hotly debated nationwide, even as misunderstandings mount around how the theory is used. But first, here's what you need to know right now. Let's start this week off with a bit of good news, shall we? New COVID cases in the US have reached the lowest levels seen in almost a year. Cases across the country have been slowly but steadily dwindling over the last few weeks. The CDC's updated mask guidance is really setting in as well. I don't know about y'all, but I actually saw a lot of people's faces while walking around this weekend. It comes as nearly 40% of the US population is now fully vaccinated. As the country approaches a big holiday weekend and the unofficial start of summer, there are other signs of a post-pandemic normalcy. According to AAA, more than 37 million people are expected to travel this weekend. That's compared to just 23 million last year, the lowest on record in 2 decades. The party is just getting started in Las Vegas. If you're looking for a little gambling, casinos there will lose all capacity and social distancing restrictions on June 1st. Meanwhile, the largest school district in the country is set to return to full in-person learning in September. This past school year, more than half the students learned remotely, but that will no longer be an option come this fall. Tomorrow marks a year since George Floyd was killed at the hands of police. 364 days later, and it's hard to find someone who hasn't heard his name. His death reignited the movement for racial justice across the world. Murals with Floyd's face have been painted in several cities. His face is now synonymous with the need for police reform.
We came out the house by the hundreds of thousands to say that if you put your knee on a man's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, that we gonna come out and show that enough is enough.
Several major events will mark the 1-year anniversary of Floyd's death, especially in Minneapolis. On Sunday, his family held a rally outside the courthouse with others who had lost loved ones to police encounters. Last month, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder and manslaughter in Floyd's death, but there's still calls for more to be done.
We must use this opportunity to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed.
President Joe Biden called on Congress to get that bill passed by the 1-year mark tomorrow, but it's still sitting in the Senate, which basically means don't expect a speedy passage. Either way, the president plans to host Floyd's family at the White House tomorrow. Some real spy thriller stuff played out over the weekend, but with some dark signs for Eastern Europe. A plane is forced to land because of a potential security threat on board, but turns out it was all a part of a plot to arrest an opposition activist and blogger. That's reportedly what happened on board a Ryanair flight this weekend. The plane took off from Greece, heading towards Lithuania. According to Ryanair, Belarusian flight controllers told the crew there was a bomb threat as the plane was crossing through the country's airspace and told it to land in Minsk. Once the plane landed, a 26-year-old activist and prominent critic of Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko was led off the plane with his girlfriend. Authorities have not said where they're being held. Governments worldwide, including the US, have condemned the arrest. The EU is considering additional sanctions against Belarus. Meanwhile, the UK warned airlines to avoid Belarus airspace. The International Air and Transport Association says it plans to launch a full investigation.
The information that's available to us certainly suggests that this was an unlawful act taken to interfere with the proper operation of a civil passenger aircraft through the airspace of Belarus.
Lukashenko has had power in Belarus since 1994. Last August, in the presidential election, he was declared the winner by a landslide, but the opposition and some election workers argue the vote was rigged. More than 34,000 people have been arrested for protesting those results. A little over a year ago, our award-winning Newsy Bellingcat series analyzed videos that showed how a shot fired by Colombian police killed a young protester. Today, we have a new report partnering again with investigative journalists in Colombia to show how economic protests nationwide have led to an even more violent response from the government this time around, with police even firing live rounds at unarmed demonstrators. Newsy's Jake Godin has the story.
Colombia has descended into chaos as the government cracks down on widespread protests, leading to more than 40 people killed, hundreds injured, and dozens missing, according to human rights groups in the country. Protests over Colombia's economic conditions have been nationwide, but they've been especially dominant in the western city of Cali, which has become the epicenter of the movement. It's also one of the places where police have cracked down hardest, using live ammunition and deploying less lethal munitions improperly. One of the deadliest days in Cali was April 30th, when 7 were killed, at least 3 of which in clashes with the police. International monitors, including from the United Nations, have called for calm and for Colombia's police to avoid violence in response to the protests. But up until now, details from the ground have been tough to come by. Working with our partners at Bellingcat and Sarah Sententa in Colombia, we've collected and analyzed dozens of open source videos and testimonies from those who were there to shed light on the killings of these protesters. Protests in Cali began when a nationwide strike was called for April 28th in response to President Ivan Duque's now-abandoned tax reform bill that would have increased taxes on low- and mid-income workers. The protesters were concentrated in the city's working-class neighborhoods surrounding the Simón Bolívar Highway in the southeast of Cali. Demonstrations were largely peaceful on April 28th and the 29th, but there were a few arson and looting incidents. There was also at least 1 death, a young teenager who was shot by a police officer. 4 others were killed in Cali on those 2 days, but there is no video evidence showing the moments that they were shot. And then, on April 30th, the police came out in greater force, specifically in the Calypso neighborhood. The resulting clashes left at least 3 protesters dead and more than 28 injured, although the number is probably higher. These deaths occurred near the Calypso neighborhood along 2 roads, Carrera 29 and the Simón Bolívar Highway. Large amounts of tear gas were used in the morning, with the officers eventually switching to live ammunition in the afternoon. One officer near the 12 de Octubre neighborhood here can be spotted with a CTAR-21 rifle. The officer is part of Colombia's Special Operations Group, or GOES. Other GOES officers were filmed in the same area where you can clearly see the identifying marks on their uniforms. In one video taken from above the police a couple hundred meters away in Calypso, you can hear them firing at the protesters, who were just around the corner. In a video shot from behind this police line, you can see at least 1 officer holding a rifle. It was in this area that 2 of the protesters, Edwin Villa and another unidentified man, were eventually shot in the street. Villa can be seen here with a white jacket on, bleeding from the head and lying on the ground. The other man is on the ground near him, apparently shot in the leg. Protesters rush towards Villa to grab him and bring him back to safety, eventually putting him on a motorbike to transport him to a nearby hospital where he is pronounced dead. Minutes later, another man, Einer Lasso, is shot and killed. He can be seen here in the CCTV footage from a grocery store about 300 meters away from the police presence. The timestamp in the footage shows him falling over from an apparent stray bullet at around 5 o'clock local time. Multiple videos show Lasso's body lying in the same spot for hours. These are just 2 of the incidents from April 30th. In another clear overuse of force, an officer with a Mobile Anti-Disturbance Squadron, or SMAD, uniform chases down a protester before pushing him down and firing what appears to be a tear gas canister at point-blank range. While this protester is said to have survived the encounter, another one who was reportedly shot in the face with a tear gas canister was killed. His name was Rosenberg Douglas. The only video showing Douglas could not be geolocated, but we've been told it was filmed here in Calypso, near a rec center. The videos of that day in Calypso show that police fired continuously at protesters with live ammunition for at least half an hour. Saracententa reporters also found evidence of bullet casings collected by witnesses in the area. Saracententa is mapping out violent incidents involving police throughout these protests in Colombia and has collected hundreds of videos documenting potential cases of police abuse. And with the nation's police director general committing to punish police who abuse or kill civilians, the database could be a valuable tool in bringing accountability across Colombia.
You want to know my litmus test for normalcy? Marvel movie trailers. Marvel is ready to bombard us with Phase 4 trailers, which means nature is healing. Here's what's trending. I gotta be honest, I'm not even sure what's going on here.
Throughout the years, we have never interfered. Until now.
Marvel dropped a new trailer for the Eternals Monday, which features a pretty stacked cast playing immortal aliens who sound like they're about to start meddling in earthly affairs. The movie takes place after Avengers Endgame, and in it, the Eternals will have to square up with the Deviants, who we don't see in the trailer, I don't think. As pumped as I am to get a new look at MCU content, the trailer doesn't really give us much to go on. But there's still plenty of things about the movie to get excited about. Oscar award-winning filmmaker Chloe Zhao directed The Eternals and wrote the screenplay. Lauren Ridloff, who was nominated for a Tony Award in her Broadway debut, will play the MCU's first deaf superhero. And we got a Stark Brothers reunion with Kit Harington and Richard Madden in the same film. Let's just keep Richard, aka Robb Stark, away from big dining scenes. Willy Wonka is trending after Deadline reported that Timothée Chalamet will star as a young version of the candy-making maniac in an upcoming movie called Wonka. This will be the third time we'll see Willy Wonka on the big screen. Gene Wilder did his thing in the original film back in 1971, and Johnny Depp took on the role in 2005. Chalamet reportedly beat out Tom Holland for the role. According to Deadline, unnamed sources said this film will give Chalamet an opportunity to show off his singing and dancing skills with several musical numbers. I'm just trying to sort out what kind of dancing we can expect from him.
Timmy's actually a really good dancer.
If you paid attention to his work or did a YouTube deep dive like me, then you'll see that Timmy can get down a bit. There was that one little slide and Call Me By Your Name, and also him dancing to Soulja Boy during a talent show. I'm already crafting a version of Willy Wonka who does the front tumble and then hits the lean with it, rock with it, but maybe that's just me. You might have posted "We outside" on your IG story over the weekend to let folks know you were out and about, but you wasn't partying like folks at Adrian's Kickback. Unless you were at Adrian's Kickback. Project X is still trending today after a weekend party in Huntington Beach, California, hosted by some kid named Adrian, turned into absolute chaos that rivaled the fictional party from the 2012 movie Project X. This professional looking footage don't do it justice though. All the wild stuff like fireworks in the street, flag post sliding a la Lil Nas X, and whatever this is happened over on TikTok. An estimated 2,500 people showed up and police arrested more than 140 people after declaring it an unlawful assembly. Surprisingly, nobody reported any significant injuries. Hopefully we won't have to wait too long to see a dramatized version of this on film, likely distributed by A24. Conversations around race and racial justice have given way online to discussions about critical race theory. Three words, when strung together, have become incredibly polarizing. Newsy's Amber Strong gives us a breakdown of this academic concept and why it's being embraced by some and rejected by others.
Three words, critical race theory, have dominated much of the national discussion on race lately. Much of the debate comes down to questions about what is and isn't critical race theory, and when and how students should begin to learn about racism in America.
Often people think about racism as individual acts of bias or bigotry, but really CRT helps us understand the ways that racism is a system.
Born out of the civil rights movement, critical race theory started as a way of examining laws through the lens of race and how laws can keep the powerful in power. It's since spread to other disciplines, exploring how racism has impacted life throughout history and still does today. Doctors Earl Turner and Gioni Lewis are part of a team of interdisciplinary scholars, contributing to a new book examining the ways CRT impacts their profession. Both are psychology professors and say it's important for teachers to understand CRT as they foster the next generation of doctors, bankers, the people who will one day decide whether a certain business will be approved for a loan or who gets what kind of medical attention.
It's really important for many of us who are training mental health care professionals or folks in the healthcare professions more broadly to have that critical understanding of racism so that they don't perpetuate racism in the care and treatment they provide to patients.
Much of the nation's debate isn't at the collegiate level, but centered on whether CRT or anything close to it should be taught to younger students.
Critical race theory is not appropriate for our kids to learn.
Through heaping all of this garbage on top of them, what effect is that going to have in the long run?
Governors or lawmakers in at least 7 states have pushed measures aimed at keeping concepts like systemic racism and white privilege out of the classroom.
Teaching kids to hate their country and to hate each other is not worth 1 red cent.
We can't always have conversations around race that are pleasant. And so I think that's the piece that people don't want to experience.
Lewis says there's a difference between teaching actual CRT to students, which in most cases isn't happening, and banning discussions on racism. And from a psychological standpoint,
it's important for them to learn that racism exists because we see there's, studies and reports about, children as young as 5 years old who are experiencing racism in the schools.
As Newsy has previously reported, there are gaps in curriculum when it comes to issues of race.
Critical race theory is important because it now sort of highlights that these things have occurred within American society, and that acknowledgement is important for us to be able to heal.
Opponents say that concepts like systemic racism put students in the mindset of either victim or oppressor. Others say that limiting what teachers can teach is anti-American in and of itself. It's a debate that isn't going away anytime soon. Amber Strong, Newsy, Washington.
We're going to make a quick pit stop. When you're back, we'll tell you how trucking companies are trying to hire more drivers to get their 18-wheelers rolling again. Electronics, furniture, clothing, most of it gets to you in part by truck. Right now, many trucking companies are facing a driver shortage. National reporter Chloe Nordquist tells us what impact that's having on consumers and how trucking companies are addressing the problem.
The demand for CDL drivers has dramatically increased. Right now it's at the height. I've never seen it as in demand as it is right now.
Just like driver's ed, students here at Great Lakes Truck Driving School are guided by instructors through maneuvers and cones.
My work light is secure, not bent or broken.
After 200 hours and a test, they'll have their commercial driver's license.
The volume is, you would be surprised at how many calls and inquiries and people trying to get into school.
With the electronic logs, they can go back months and find out you didn't do it right.
Classrooms are full, and trucking companies desperate for new hires know it.
How's everybody doing? You guys want to stretch your legs real fast? Go ahead. I'm going to pass out some information.
Visiting the students before they finish the course.
No exaggeration. The demand is through the roof. There are trucking companies calling us every single day.
Admissions rep Don Mutters says things have been really busy due to the shortage of truck drivers.
So the need, I don't see it ever diminishing.
These students have their work cut out for them once they complete the necessary schooling.
I like it when they're all running naturally, but you got to have drivers to put in them. So we've got plenty of work.
Visit the Cleveland Express trucking facility, and the first thing you see, a giant hiring sign.
So there's not as many resumes to choose from as there was maybe 6 to 8 months ago. You know, the smaller companies, I think, always had a little bit more of a challenge hiring. It's nothing like it is now. I kind of get excited when I get a resume show up on there that's being sent to me.
Gene Carson says it's the worst he's seen during his years in the industry. He's having trouble hiring and says it's due to a number of factors. More regulations on drivers, long travel, and concerns about job security as more autonomous vehicles hit the road.
There's a lot of things going on, but it's as worst as I ever seen.
The American Trucking Association recently announced the industry needs to hire nearly 61,000 drivers as soon as possible to meet demand. Roughly 1.1 million new drivers are needed in the next decade to support the current economic demands.
So everything has to work in the right place, right time, right amount to make everything possible.
Dr. Jen-Yi Chen is a supply chain economist.
People buy more in-house, consume more, and that require more logistics transportation, which, this imbalance actually create a big problem, for supply chain.
He says this could mean higher prices or shipping delays for Americans, some of which we've already seen. And without more drivers, the problem isn't going away.
We're expecting the summer demand is going to pick up, back to school, and then we're going to get into the holiday season. So it won't be until next year, if ever, to come back.
That's why schools like Great Lakes continue helping potential drivers graduate.
Once you're enrolled here, we work with the student until they pass.
Hoping to get more drivers on the road and to keep them there.
Literally every product, every consumable that we all use on a daily basis, eventually it gets onto a truck and transported to a store, and we all rely on that.
With photojournalist Luis Ramirez, I'm Chloe Nordquist reporting.
If you haven't done so already, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter using the hashtag #NewsyInTheLoop. We're coming up on 1 year of ITL, so hit us up and let us know what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to see in year 2. All suggestions are welcome, but only a select few will not be jettisoned. As vaccination rates slow down across the country, cities and sports teams are getting creative to get people vaccinated. National reporter Alexa Liaco takes us to an MLB game where fans can get vaccinated while rooting for their home team.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the gates are now open. Welcome to your summer home.
We've waited more than a year to hear the roar of packed stadiums. The crowds look a little different in most places, but the joy for the sport is the same. America's pastime is finally coming back to life.
There's no better feeling than being able to say, I'm at the ballpark, watching the Seattle Mariners play again.
For superfan and sports podcaster Mike McDonald, there's no place he'd rather be.
Being at the ballpark is kind of like a church to me. It's a religion. You know, baseball is in my blood. I've been a diehard Mariners fan since I was 4.
But this season, fans aren't just rooting for the home team. The Seattle Mariners scored a pop-up vaccine clinic. This is your vaccine card? With some of the best seats in the house. McDonald says the clinic's location convinced him to step up to the plate.
I felt like I didn't really want to wait for an appointment outside the stadium, and I said, you know what, I'll get it done here.
And dozens of fans and employees were on deck right behind him.
It's all about taking care of your community and the people around you.
It makes me feel incredible to even be a fan of this team, that they took the necessary steps to even give fans a nice breather and say, hey, now I even feel more safe going to the ballpark.
And this night was special because one of the Mariners' youngest fans got his chance.
And when he saw this, he's like, Mom, can I do it? Can I do it?
Not knowing it would be here at his first game of the season.
First at school to get it, first of all. Also, I'm going to brag to all my friends, and yeah, it's going to be super sweet.
The quick pinch gave 13-year-old Fisher Black a chance to look forward to.
Pretty much everything that has to do with not COVID, so yeah, mountain biking, skiing, whatever it is, just having fun.
But it's more than fun.
In the state of Washington, there are far fewer men vaccinated than women. That's why the fire department and the Mariners think these clinics are so important, because over the last few games, the majority of people they've given shots to have been men.
And that's what it's all about, is going and meeting people where they are. And we are proud to have the opportunity to stand in the gap and help our community get back to normal, whatever that is.
For now, normal is masked fans, a few extra open seats, and a bigger team helping out to keep sports alive.
We band together for baseball.
I'm Alexa Liaco reporting.
That's it for us, gang. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more in the loop. Same time, same place. Top stories from Newsy are headed your way right now.